Hello and welcome to Smart Mortgage Insights. I'm Mandy LaRose.
And I'm Conor Levinka. Today we're going to talk to you about becoming a landlord. You want to be a real estate investor? How do you do that?
Being a landlord. Well, are you ready for phone calls when you least expect them?
Now, when the toilet breaks, does it make an appointment?
No, it does not. It absolutely doesn't. So, being the landlord has some great advantages. Absolutely. Being an investor, owning real estate. Real estate's king in our world as far as we're concerned. It's a great way to build wealth. But being a landlord also, the reality is it's time consuming. And you don't, like Connor said, toilets don't make appointments to break, water heaters don't, plumbing doesn't, the snow falls, the snow needs to be mowed, or excuse me, the snow.
You can mow snow.
Yeah, the snow needs to be plowed, the grass needs to be mowed, all of those things need to happen when you're a landlord. So things you definitely need to think about for sure.
Absolutely. So starting out, there's several programs in place. The big thing is, are you going to live there? Is that something that you're going to live as your primary residence? And a lot of people don't know, but you can buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex as your first home, live there, and immediately start getting rents that are going to help you qualify.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's one of the easier ways about going about gaining some real estate investment is starting with it being an owner-occupied property. Like we've talked about some other episodes, if you're not going to live in the property, it can cost you some money as far as down payment goes and things like that. So being able to buy the property as an owner-occupied and living in that property, being able to count the other rents from the other units coming in can really help you build onto that. Of course, everything in mortgage lending has to make sense. So if you come to us and say, hey Mandy, I own this single family home and I'd love to buy this fourplex and owner occupy it and use your minimum down payment programs.
It's not likely that you would make that downgrade.
No.
It's not impossible.
Not impossible. Again, real estate has to make sense and we look at every picture differently, and if your picture makes sense, then we're going to look at that. So there are opportunities to do that, but it does need to make sense. And moving from a single family to a fourplex generally doesn't.
No, that'd be considered a downgrade in most people's books, and that's the way an underwriter's going to look at it. Let's talk about one of the easiest ways to get into a multifamily property, and that's through an FHA loan. FHA offers a 3.5% down payment program to get into a multifamily home. Into a duplex, it's very easy. The triplex and fourplex, it adds one additional step, and that is the self-sustainability test. That sounds super boring, but can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can, and for some reason I can never remember that the actual saying of that. Yeah, but but I can explain it to you. That's for sure. So basically, what the self-sustainable is,
it even sounds boring.
It really does. So what that means is the rents have to basically cover the mortgage. So the rents of all 4 units need to cover the mortgage payment on the property. I think it's actually 75% of the rents, if I remember correctly, have to cover 75% of all 4 units need to cover that mortgage. And right now, as we all know, prices have gotten more expensive. Inflation is definitely in everything we buy, but also in rents as well. And but the issue's been is rents haven't necessarily caught up with what our prices are right now. So when we're looking at a 3 to 4 unit property, when we're using FHA and taking all 4 units, 75% of those rents to determine if it covers the mortgage or not, it is becoming more difficult with the rents being lower, but rates and payments being higher.
It is, but the nice thing is if the property that you're looking at doesn't fit into the FHA mold, we have other choices. We can put you into a conventional loan. At this point, you can get a conventional multifamily loan for as little as 5% down in some cases.
Yeah, and that's a fairly new program that just came out in October of 23. And before that, on a conventional loan, even if you were going to live in the property and you wanted to buy a 3 to 4 unit property, you were going to be putting down at least 20% But now for a one to four units, really, you can put a minimum of 5% down on a conventional property. And again, we can count 75% of those rents coming in towards you qualifying. And that program works out really well. And it's a nice alternative to the FHA with the 3 to 4 unit properties having a little bit more issues with them showing as cash flowing on paper.
Definitely. And, if you're not going to primary occupy the property, we can still do the loan for you. It'll just be a higher down payment of 25% ish. One definition that I will tell you is a residential mortgage goes up to 4 units. So anything above 4 units would be in the commercial realm.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'd be looking at a multifamily, commercial loan, something like that. And we have access to referrals for that as well. But 1 to 4 units is what we are typically looking at when we're looking at residential loans. Conor, do you want to tell us, we do have another program. Do you want to tell us about the DSCR loan as well?
Absolutely. So that's another choice that we have, and that is a DSCR, Debt Service Coverage Ratio Loan. Another acronym. We live in acronyms in our world for some reason. But that is simply going to be that the rents from the property that you are going to buy are as much as the mortgage. They're pretty easy to qualify for. We don't need to look at your finances really at all. It's just going to be what the rents you are going to receive from it will be. That will be an only investor property occupancy.
Yeah, but it's a pretty slick program because we're not taking into consideration any of your income, your
debts. No.
Yeah, so we're not looking at anything like that. We're basically just looking at the property itself. And generally we want it to cash flow at least 75% or more. And if it does, then it's more than likely going to work out on paper.
The final note that we really wanted to talk about is multifamily homes that are essentially a good deal that rent for a fair amount of money. They go quickly. Other people know that these properties are great. So what we would really like to tell you is be ready. Talk to your LO about what it is, what programs are out there, and then also think, do you want to be a landlord? Kind of when we started about that, the program today. Do you want to be a landlord? Be familiar with the products out there. So when something does come along, you're very comfortable with the program and the idea of renting, being a landlord, to jump on it quickly.
Absolutely. It is a big responsibility, and like Conor said, it always sounds like a great idea until you get into it. And it's just
not for everyone.
It absolutely is not for everyone. And especially, when you're younger, you're single, and you're getting into a property, and then life happens, and then you start a family and all that, and you think, oh, we're going to have all these properties until the baby's crying, and then the phone's ringing, and
pushing snow gets boring.
Yes,
and tiring.
Absolutely.
So it's a great choice, but really think about it.
For sure. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, as always, send us an email at podcast@residentialmtg.com. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. This podcast is sponsored by Residential Mortgage, LLC, NMLS numbers 167729, 196, 576, and 1820404. Equal housing lender.